What's up, everybody? Staying here from Rocky Creek. Man, we've been gone for a while because it's just been busy. Work, family, homestead, all that stuff, and trying to balance it all and fit it all in with everyday life. That's just always the biggest battle that we have. And that's the hardest thing with doing anything like this, especially working full-time and raising a family, is just, there's just not enough time in the day. But we've been able to get some stuff done. We're not quite where we want to be. And so really today we're going to get you caught up because we've gotten the piglets separated, and we're going to give you the first look of the garden of 2022. It's not what we've wanted. It's not quite the way that we wanted it to be done, but a garden is better than no garden. And so yeah, let's get to it. So before we get started, I thought I'd share with you something cool I found. My daughter thought it was super cool, but I don't know how well you can see it, the sunlight. But we have lavender that we grow here on our property, and this is a bird's nest that fell out after the babies were gone, and it blew out from one of the gutters of our home. But I'm not sure how well you can see it. But let's go over here to the pigs because they're very much struggling because they have been separated and they're not doing that well. Hey, Big Mama, how you been, girl? Yeah. You seem like you're doing pretty well without the piglets. You're probably enjoying your peace and quiet. Yeah, you gonna lay in your pool? Yeah, a little R&R, spa day for Mama. There you go. You go on and enjoy. You rest up. So real quick, what we did was we replaced that old cattle panel we had that was keeping them out of this old area where the other shelter burnt down, and I just replaced that with a hog panel so it's lower and easier to get on. And then I just added an additional T-post there in the middle, and that separated them. And these guys will use this structure for right now because that'll be big enough for the moment, but my plan is going to be that we'll get them an additional structure put in, just as Big Mama's structure is going to change here in the very near future. Today's actually the first day that we've separated the piglets from Big Mama, and Big Mama doesn't seem to have any care in the world. We really should have gotten them separated probably about 3 weeks ago, but it's, as I said, the business of life. But you can probably hear the piglets. They're not doing as well with it, and they always think it's time to eat too, but they're still cute. Let's go check them out. Hi, little piglet. Hi, little piglet. How you doing? All your little friends gonna come too? Hi. Hi, y'all love some rubs and attention, except for that guy. He's a little loner over there. Come here, little pigs. So my favorite thing to do to get these guys used to me and acclimated, which they do really well, is I've kind of just been sitting here at the front of their structure, and they'll just kind of slowly come up to me out of curiosity and let me rub on them, and sometimes they'll even just lay here at my feet. Pretty much if I just rub on these guys, yep, like that, they just end up laying down. Hey buddy, you on my feet? Yeah, you big old chunk. You want to come get some love too? Huh? You want to come get in on the action? I think this little guy done got rubbed into a nap. Look at that little cute face. He's a cute little face. The good thing is this guy right here, he's actually the boar that I think we're going to keep back, and we're going to keep him intact because he's, not only is he bigger than all the rest of them, which will be good for us in terms of breeding in the future, but he is also, as you can tell, the most personal one and the most chill one, laid back. I mean, he is like out cold getting rubbed on. So yeah, guys, that's pretty much the update on the piglets. Not a whole lot going on with them, but the only other thing we got going on is I have scheduled for 2 of the 3 boys to get castrated here in the very near future, utilizing the services of our nearby university. So enough of these guys. Let's go down and let's show you the first look at the garden of 2022. There's my little garden helper. She always comes down here with me, and she likes to hang out in the weeds and chase the deer. We got deer like crazy right now. So guys, here's the first glimpse of garden 2022. Doesn't look like a whole lot right now, but hopefully here in about another month or so, it'll really start filling in. So let's go in here and show you some of the things we got going on. So y'all, first thing first is we have our sweet corn right here. And this was kind of an afterthought. We've only grown corn once since we've been here on this property, and that was glass gem corn. This here is going to actually be a sweet corn variety. I believe it was the peaches and cream that some people have talked about, and it's actually doing better than what I had anticipated. And the only problem that we do have with it though was we had a storm come in overnight where we had 50 to 55 mile an hour wind gusts, and some of this got laid over, but where it's still pretty small, it didn't bend it at the stalks. It just hasn't developed that great of a root structure yet. And for the most part, I've gotten it all stood back up, but it's doing pretty well. I really don't have much experience growing corn other than just that one time we did, which for our first experience went pretty well. So hopefully this will do good, but we'll see. I didn't have a whole lot invested in it. I actually didn't start this from seed. These were plant starts from our local hardware / gardening store, and they had them on sale. So I got them for about half the cost of normal, about $5 invested, and I was able to get just over 20 stalks of corn. So we'll see if that ends up being productive or not. But at the end of the day, it's only a $5 investment. You may see a few sprouts right in here. We got multiple areas where these are just some zinnia seeds. If you followed us over in previous years, you have seen that we've grown zinnias. We love those for two reasons. One, they're great cutting flowers just to take into the property, and they continue to produce throughout the season, and they're really hardy. They grow really well, but also it's just another way to bring in additional pollinators, and we've been pretty successful with that. So I got those going on in various areas. I was late sowing the seeds, but they're already sprouting. They're pretty vigorous growers, so those should go well. One big new thing I'm trying this year are raised beds. I bought these 2 years ago, and this is the first year I got around to putting them together. I bought them from a local hardware store, and they're actually pretty sturdy. I was very impressed with them. And I went ahead and filled that one up with some compost. This one's about 3/4 of the way full, but I still need to get some more dirt for this one and for this one. And as you can see, we've integrated a hoop trellis in between them. And that's actually the zinnia seeds right there that's going to grow in between. And all I did was I took a 2x4 scrap piece, well that's actually a 2x3, and I screwed from the other side and just clamped it in there to give it some extra stability, and then the dirt will also help hold it. And it went together literally in just a couple minutes, and we'll run another one from here to here doing the exact same way once I get another load of dirt in and compost. So in this raised bed right here though, we have 2 rows of carrots. These are going to be purple carrots, and then we have some beets growing in the next 2 rows, and then along the edges of them we have some marigolds. And then right here along the edge of the panel, which will run up, so they just need some root area, these are going to be our red noodle long beans that we grew last year, but the voles killed, and you can see they're already almost up to the top of the panel. So they're doing really well, so we'll see how well those produce. And I have some more that we're going to plant on the other end of the panel once we get that dirt in, and they'll interconnect at one point. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to grow the same thing on the other trellis or if I may do our cucamelons again. So we'll just have to wait. I'll make that decision as we're getting later. I may even do maybe a smaller squash plant that can vine up, that can handle the weight. I haven't really decided yet. Just depends on what time of year we're able to get that done. Now you'll also see intermixed in here are several sunflowers, and they're kind of spaced all throughout the garden. You'll see there's another one way up there, a few more right here, and they're just kind of sporadic throughout the garden, trying to even it out. And that's once again just another way of, yes, it's a crop that we can be able to harvest. Here's another small one, but it's also just about bringing in pollination and natural pollinators to our plants, which increases our success of fruiting. So then working our way from the entrance over, this will be our cucumbers for the year. There you can see they're already starting to grow really well, running up the trellises, and we starting to get some blooms forming. So we very well may end up with some cucumbers here in the very near future. And we'll just continue to train these guys as they're going up. And we have probably about 7 or so plants. The first year I had entirely way too many cucumbers than what I could manage. I canned and pickled a ton of them, but this seems to be a good number for us. These are not any pickling varieties because I still have a ton of pickled cucumbers. These will all be more of a slicing cucumber, which we use the Market Moors from Baker Creek Heirloom Seed Company, and we've been very pleased with them. So that right there will be our cucumber row. So this is our bean row, and this year we're growing 2 styles of beans. One of them is our dragon tongue beans from last year, and the other, hi Chloe, how are you? Hey, can I talk to them about the green beans without you being in my way? I know, you just want some love. All right, go on. Go, get. Thank you. So before Chloe dog decided she wanted to get in on the action, like I said, this is going to be our bean row, and we got it half contender beans, which is just a standard green bean, and the other half is dragon tongue beans, which we grew last year. I'm very much a fan of the dragon tongue. They're wider, they're a softer bean, which I personally like. Madison and Mrs. Rocky Creek, to me, are more of a traditional green bean type people. They still like the dragon tongue too, but I just think maybe they don't like the softness of the texture once it's cooked. For me, I prefer it that way, especially for casseroles and stuff. But the contenders, this is my first time growing them, and they're doing fantastic. I was shocked. I came out here the other day and they had fallen over, and I thought something got a hold of them. Well, come to find out, they just started producing beans super early, and the plant's not very thick yet, and it really, I think the weight of the bean pulled them over, and I'll show you that here in a minute. So we just used some of these fiberglass poles or posts that we have, drove those in to give them just enough support, and they're doing pretty good. But let me show you these beans that are already grown on these things, and they're not very big at all. So if you look at these plants, they're already starting to get quite a number of beans on them, even though they have not been here very long at all, and they're doing really well. Pretty much just about every contender bean plant that I have has anywhere from about 4 to 8 or so beans on them already, which is a good sign this early in the growing season, because I bet these have probably only been in the ground a couple weeks at this point. The dragon tongue beans, on the other hand, have a lot more foliage on them, and they're starting to flower, but they haven't really produced a whole lot of beans quite yet. So it kind of just shows you the difference. It's almost like they need to produce a lot more leaves to get the energy, versus the contender beans don't have very many leaves at all and are already producing a good number of beans. So I'll be curious to see how these compare out as we go throughout the rest of the growing season. Then once we come over from the beans, we got 2 rows of tomato plants going. We have one panel up already to start running as support for the tomatoes. I still need to get another one ran right here for this row of tomatoes, and I do have a small section that I'll do for these ones right here in the front. But we got all kinds of varieties of tomatoes going this year, and the fact that I got them close, we're probably going to get some cross-pollination, so we'll see how that plays out, but I think it'll be okay. These ones here in the front are going to be up to this one right here, are going to be your traditional red slicing tomatoes. I believe these ones are going to be called Tappies or Toppies from Baker Creek. And then these 3 here, I actually grew from seeds sent to me by one of our subscribers, and they're going to be a Jet Star, which, if those of you follow Living Traditions Homestead, that's one of their main go-to tomatoes. And so to the subscriber that sent me these seeds, I'm very thankful, and we're able to put them to good use. Now, speaking of that same subscriber, when you go to these 3 tomato plants here, those as well were seeds provided by them, and these are going to be Pole Oxheart tomatoes. And then once we pick up from there, we got some Bella Rosas, and then we end up picking up further down here, and we transition over to our Sunrise Bumblebee cherry tomatoes, which we were very happy with last year. So each of these plants I estimate are going to be about ranging anywhere from about 1 to 1.5 feet tall right now, but I can tell you from what we've seen since we've got them in here, they have probably doubled in size in just the last 7 to 10 days. So I think we're really starting to pick up into our growing season, and we're going to really start to see these things really start to take off here very soon. Coming here to our last row, I have our lemon squash plants. They're starting to grow very well. They're holding up pretty well to bug pressure. We've had a little bit, but nothing too bad, but they're starting to grow pretty well. So we're hoping we'll start getting some production here. I've noticed they're starting to try to throw some blooms. So we may be getting some lemon squash here in the very near future. And then I have 2 pepper plants here. We lost a few pepper plants early on due to some really bad weather and voles. So these 2 have stuck it out, which these 2 have already started producing some peppers, and these are just going to be some sweet bell peppers. And then I have about 5 or 6 plant starts that are about 6 or so inches high, and we're going to go ahead and get those stuck back in here, and I think we'll be good to go once we get those in. Right now though, this is my biggest issue that I'm having within the garden already. If you look right there, you see that hole at the base of this tomato plant right here. We are dealing with our vole pressure again. And if you notice, I got a snap trap here with some peanut butter. If y'all were with me last year, you know, sorry guys, it's super windy. But for those of you that were here with me last year, you know that we had a terrible time with voles. I didn't have vole issues when I first came to this property in our first few gardens, but last year the voles just destroyed, I'd say, about 40% of my garden. And this year, I was hoping we weren't gonna have that problem, and we already are starting to deal with some vole pressure. Now, I've since, as soon as I lost 2 bean plants and 2 tomato plants when I first recognized that I had vole issues again this year. Since then, I have already sprayed some castor oil spray mixture, which is what we used last year, but this year I did my own blend of it just because it was cheaper. I bought a big bottle of castor oil and did it with 1 tablespoon of dish soap along with water and sprayed it all over the garden. And so hopefully that would help. And then I have also, since you saw, put the snap traps over there, and then we have also gotten a few of the solar sonic emitter things, or whatever you want to call it, some of you recommended, and we put those in, and hopefully they'll start to work as well. But I'll show you one of those real quick. So here's one of them right here, and they do, I think it's like a 3 or 5 second tone every 20 or 30 seconds. Honestly, I don't know if these things work, but I'll try it. They weren't too expensive. I want to say each of these were like $12 or $15 a piece. So we'll give it a try, and we got a couple of them here in the garden. So the one big addition we got this year in the garden is going to be our drip irrigation system, which they have these various emitters right here, and then we have them running in different spots, and we can do up to 10 lines came with this particular kit. And all we did was they had a little punch, and you put a little hole in the main line. This part right here popped right in, and then you run your drip line tape whichever route that you want it to do. Now, some of ours gets a little off kilter because it gets pulled from the backside, because we had the big storm here recently, which is why there's a lot of debris. All I do is I just give it a little pull, or once it gets pressure, it all kind of straightens out. But this drip irrigation system has been a game changer for me. When I heard drip irrigation, I thought it was going to be difficult to do, but honestly, I bet it probably only took me 30 or so minutes to put it all together, maybe an hour at most. And that was really just the hardest part, was unwinding the tubing and cutting it to the lengths that I wanted it and not wasting too much material. But really, as easy as it was, and as easy as it's been to water and the less stress on my well, I wish I'd have done this a long time ago. Well guys, I almost completely messed up. Seeing Miss Madison here reminding me we did do Madison's melon patch again this year. So I forgot about that, so let's go over there and we'll talk about that real quick. So down over here, once you get to what I call the L of the garden, this is where it always becomes Madison's melon patch. Yeah. And so one difference this year though is I'm trying here on the front end, right here, right there, right there, and right there. And don't pay attention to that one. That was an extra plant I try to make use of. But then right there, these are actually a new variety of cantaloupe that we're trying, because she really likes cantaloupe. I'm not sure how well they're going to do, but we're going to give that a try. But then our normal staples are right here, which they don't look like much right now, but in no time at all, they typically will cover this entire area. And we have 2 of these are strawberry watermelons, and 2 of them are going to be the orange glows. If y'all followed us, those are what we grew last year. The strawberry watermelon has always been our staple, but I did enjoy the orange glows. They're not quite as sweet, but they're a little bit smaller, and they have a little less seeds, so I still wanted to grow those because I liked them. I had the seeds anyways, but usually I do 6 melon plants, but usually every year I end up with way too many melons, so I backed it up, and I'm only doing 4 this year, and we'll see how well that produces. But yeah, Madison's melon patch is definitely in full swing this year. So guys, there's not a whole lot there right now, but we're working on Garden of 2022. I'm hoping I can show you some harvest and things can really get going on that pretty soon. But we're going to go ahead and close up the garden, but I will give you one more update before I close out this video, because I'd like to get you caught up, and that is, how is the guard goose working out? Let's go check this guy out, because it's got, well, I don't know if it's a boy or girl still. I ain't figured it out. I ain't really tried to figure it out. I think it's a girl, but I don't know.
I think
but it definitely is, it's doing its job. Let's go check it out.
Hi, Goosey.
What's up, Bruce? Good to see you, Bruce. So there's our goose. Goose has actually been doing really good. I've seen numerous times where it's honking at stuff that's up in the sky, pays attention to stuff all the time. For the longest time, when I would walk up to it, it started getting loud. It wouldn't come at me when I came in the pen, but it would at least start making a lot of noise, alerting everybody that I was here. When my dog would come near it, it really would get wound up and making a bunch of noise. But you know, the level of noise isn't obnoxious. So I was a little worried about the noise level with the goose, but it's actually not been too bad. It's kind of like just enough. And I've noticed, for the most part, of course it's walking because I'm following it, I've noticed it and Bruce kind of seem to hang out together more so than what I expected. It's almost like they understand they're the protectors of the flock now. And the most important good note that I have to report is what Madison's holding right there is our old ramp that I had going to the automatic door. And the goose was not using the automatic door. And I thought, if this goose doesn't go in on its own, then this automatic door isn't going to be that great, because I'm still going to have to capture it every day, which is becoming a pain. So I swapped that door with a wider platform that's longer, so it's not as steep. And I'm glad to say the goose is going in on its own at night now. And I'm no longer chasing a goose and trying to get it anymore. So that's worked out fantastic. So the birds have pretty much become self-sufficient at the end of the day. So guys, today's video is a little bit uneventful, but I just really wanted to give you an update of where we're at, where we've gotten the pigs separated. We've gotten the garden actually going for some degree. And my favorite thing is that I got the goose going in on its own at night, because my biggest problem has been there's not enough time in the day. Work has been extremely busy. We've been working a lot of overtime, and I have, if you all remember from last year, is we have a big event every year in our city, and I'm actually getting ready to probably be working around 10 to 12 days that are going to be probably around 12 to 15 hour days, and it pretty much takes everybody at our agency to get through it. And so it's going to be very hard to find time to get a lot of big projects done here at the homestead. So my goal has been to do a big push to get everything in the garden, get those meat birds processed, which we were able to do, get the piglets separated, get the 2 castrated that need to get castrated, and then I could get through that long stretch there at work. And so far I seem to be caught up to all that. The drip irrigation system has been a game changer for that. You know, it cost me, I think, about $150 or so for that system, but the amount of time it has saved me, especially with the garden, has been tremendous. So everything I'm trying to do equals a little bit of time savings that doesn't risk the health of our animals, and that's been my ultimate goal here lately. So guys, I appreciate you coming along with us today. If you have questions about any of the stuff that I talked about today or need something more specific, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. But until then, guys, I appreciate you hanging out. Hope everybody's doing well, and we'll see you here very soon on one of our next episodes. Bye, guys.